the B67 TV tower.
If you're scared of dying, no.
At the start of the movie, we're shown two girls, Hunter and Becky, stuck on a massive 2,000-foot-high tower. They try calling for help, but due to the high altitude, their phones have no reception. The worst part? This tower lies in the middle of a vast, empty desert. Being spotted by anyone is nearly impossible. To make matters worse, vultures start circling and attacking them. If they fall asleep, they'll plunge directly to their deaths. The story then flashes back. Becky, her partner Dan, and her best friend Hunter are rock climbing. They seem to be having a great time when suddenly Dan comes across a small hole. He reaches inside for a grip, but a bird flies out, causing him to lose balance. He tumbles, becoming tangled in the rope. Dan desperately tries to swing back to the rock, but he can't make it. Becky and Hunter try to help, but the rope breaks and Dan falls to his death. Fast forward 51 weeks, and Becky is still haunted by that horrible day. She's depressed, drinking heavily. Her father, James, is worried, urging her to move on, but she won't listen. One night, she even considers ending her own life by taking an excessive amount of pills. Just as she's about to do it, her phone rings. It's Hunter. They haven't spoken in a long time. The next day, Hunter shows up, and she tells Becky about her plan to climb the old 67 TV tower. She invites Becky to join her, saying they can finally revive that adventurous spirit they've missed so much. Becky, though, is still in pain and shows no interest. But the following morning, lost in memories of Dan, she changes her mind. She decides to climb it for him. Soon after, they're on their way to the tower. While Becky scrolls through old photos, she notices one of Hunter with a man's hand on her. Becky asks who he is, but Hunter dodges the question. Just then, Becky's father calls, but she doesn't pick up. After a long drive, they stop at a motel to spend the night. Over dinner, Becky learns that Hunter is now a vlogger and makes enough money to travel and explore. The next morning, they head back on the road, with Hunter filming her vlog, excitedly telling viewers about the 2,000-foot tower. Suddenly, she gets too absorbed, they almost crash into a truck. After a while, they arrive at the tower, only to find the gate closed with a danger sign. But undeterred, they leave their car and begin trekking through the deserted land. Along the way, they spot vultures feasting on animal remains. Hunter even documents it in her vlog. She even uploads the animal's photo on social media, where it quickly gains tons of likes. A few moments later, they arrive at the tower and Hunter resumes her vlogging. Becky, on the other hand, is terrified of climbing. She's flooded with memories of her past. She considers giving up, but Hunter persuades her to face her fears. With their ropes connected, Hunter begins the climb up the ladder inside the tower. The entire structure is rusted, the ladder is shaky, and the bolts look loose. As Becky climbs, one of the metal rods breaks under her. She's frozen with fear, but manages to gather her courage and continues her ascent. Eventually, they reach the halfway point, and when they look down, the city below looks like a toy town. They pause for a moment, sip some water, and then resume their climb. After a while, they've climbed 1,800 feet. Just 200 feet remain on the ladder outside the tower. Becky is horrified by the wind, the height, and the rusted metal. She begs Hunter to turn back, but Hunter tells her to keep going. Braving her fear, Becky follows Hunter up the outside ladder, which looks even more unstable. They spot metal discs blocking the way, forcing them to climb around the ladder's edge. Hunter breezes through and helps Becky cross over, but the higher they go, the stronger the wind gets, and Becky grows even more terrified. Sensing Becky's fear, Hunter starts shaking the ladder. Becky watches in horror as a bolt loosens and falls. Luckily, the ladder holds and they keep climbing, but before reaching the top, another bolt falls loose. Finally, they reach the peak. They start taking photos and videos, but Hunter isn't satisfied. She grabs her drone for a better shot and even hands it to Becky as she dangles from the ledge. It's a bold move for popularity, but soon after, she pulls herself up and asks Becky to try hanging off the edge too. Becky is shocked. No way! But Hunter urges her on, saying it's the only way to face her fear. With a deep breath, Becky takes Hunter's hand, slowly inching off the ledge. Hunter snaps selfies before carefully pulling Becky back up. After that, Becky scatters Dan's ashes, bidding him a final goodbye in an emotional moment. Now they're ready to head down. Becky goes first, attaching her harness, but as she descends, the ladder suddenly breaks beneath her, sending her plummeting. Hunter manages to grab the rope and with all her strength, pulls Becky back up. After the near-death scare, the two laugh like maniacs, overwhelmed with relief. However, their laughter quickly fades when they notice The ladders are gone. They check their phones, but no signal. Worse yet, they realize that their bag with water and supplies has fallen onto one of the discs below. Inside the tower, they discover a pair of binoculars and a flare gun, but they're useless. Becky starts to panic, but Hunter quickly calms her, saying the sound of the ladder falling had to be heard by someone. She persuades Becky to wait, reassuring her that help will come. As they brainstorm ideas to escape, Hunter suddenly notices a large cut on Becky's leg from her fall. Acting fast, she wraps her shirt around the wound. After a while, to pass the time, Becky starts asking Hunter questions about her vlogging journey. When Hunter mentions that she started it because of Dan, a spark of suspicion flickers in Becky's mind. A few hours later, Hunter checks her phone, remembering she'd posted that animal's picture earlier. She believes there might be a signal at a certain height. With a glimmer of hope, she prepares a help message, ties her phone to the end of a rope, and lowers it as far down as she can, hoping it will catch a signal and post. But it fails. Still, they're convinced there's signal at the base and decide to throw the phone down, hoping the message will upload. Hunter carefully pads the phone inside her shoe with her socks and push-up bra, then tosses it down. Just then, Becky notices a 143 tattoo on Hunter's foot and realizes it was Dan's code for I love you. Suspicion grows. A little later, Hunter spots a man with a dog at the base of the tower. They scream for help, waving their arms, but they're too high up. Their cries go unheard. They look down to see Hunter's phone smashed. Their plan failed. Desperate, Becky throws both of their shoes, hoping to catch the man's attention, but no luck. She considers using the flare gun, but Hunter stops her, knowing the flare won't be visible in the daylight. Just then, they spot another man. They're there to party. With renewed hope, they decide to wait until night to use the flare, knowing it'll be easier to see. Finally, night falls. Becky shoots the flare, and the men do notice. The girls wave frantically, overjoyed, as the men approach Hunter's car. But instead of rescuing them, the men steal the car and drive away. This shatters the girls inside. Now they need a new solution, and fast. Later, Becky confronts Hunter about the 143 tattoo. After a tense pause, Hunter admits she had an affair with Dan for 6 months. Apologizing, she tells Becky she fell for him because, unlike others, he listened to her. She loved him, but she loved Becky more, so she ended it. Hunter looks at Becky, remorseful, knowing she made a huge mistake. Hearing this, Becky is devastated. Her own friend and partner had betrayed her. Then the next morning, Becky's phone alarm goes off, marking 24 hours since they threw down Hunter's phone. Parched and desperate, Hunter decides to go down to the disc to retrieve their bag. She ties one end of the rope to the tower and the other around her waist, then carefully descends. But she can't quite reach the disc. With no other options, Hunter unhooks her harness, clings to the rope with one hand, and swings to the disc. She grabs the bag, drinks a bit of water, then hooks it onto the rope with her selfie stick, clinging tightly as Becky pulls her up. Hunter is almost to the top when her hand slips. She falls! Becky's heart nearly stops, but when she looks down, she's relieved to see Hunter still clutching the bag. However, Hunter's hand is badly injured, so Becky uses every ounce of strength to pull her up. Later, Becky writes a desperate help note, attaching it to their drone, hoping to send it to the motel. But just as she launches it, the drone's battery dies. It can't travel far, so they bring it back, defeated once again. That night, Becky has a terrifying nightmare of vultures devouring Hunter's body. She jolts awake, realizing, thankfully, it was just a dream. In the morning, Becky gets an idea. They can charge the drone using the tower lights. She climbs up the pole, plugs in the charger, but it's too loose. She has to hold it in place. Under the scorching heat and with vultures circling, she holds firm, determined. But during this, she accidentally drops their bag all the way down. Finally, with the drone charged, she climbs back down and launches it toward the motel, watching as it gets closer and closer, until a truck collides with the drone, destroying it completely. Both girls are crushed, with no hope left. Soon after, a storm rolls in, complicating their survival even more. Becky, utterly drained, wants to sleep, but Hunter warns her not to. The vultures might attack her if she falls asleep. Becky asks for Hunter's shoe to throw her phone one last time, but Hunter says she can't. Her shoe is on her feet, down on the disc. In a horrifying realization, Becky understands Hunter didn't survive the last fall. She had let go and fallen to the disc below. Becky has been hallucinating Hunter's presence this entire time. Shattered, Becky faces the brutal truth. She's been alone, all along. That night, she weathers the storm and, with what little strength she has left, records a final message for her father, expressing her deepest wish to come home. By morning, her body is weak and wounded. A vulture senses her vulnerability and begins pecking at her injuries. Summoning a final surge of willpower, Becky grabs the vulture and strikes its head against the metal, killing it in a fierce struggle for survival. Desperate, Becky eats the vulture's flesh to survive. Feeling a surge of energy, she ties herself to the rope and leaps down to the disc where Hunter's body lies. With trembling hands, she sends a final message to her dad, places her phone in Hunter's shoe, and this time she slips it inside Hunter's body, then throws it down, hoping it'll make it. That night, James receives the message. He instantly dials 911, racing to the scene. When he arrives, he sees the police removing a body, and his heart breaks, fearing it's Becky. But then he sees her. Overcome with emotion, father and daughter reunite, sharing a powerful, tearful embrace. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this recap, please subscribe for more content, hit that like button to support us, and let us know in the comments which movie you'd like us to recap next. Until next time, take care.